There's a reason emotional abuse is so difficult to identify both from the outside and from within it. It doesn't leave visible evidence. It doesn't happen in a single dramatic moment that's easy to point to. It accumulates slowly, quietly, through patterns that individually might seem explainable, dismissible, even normal. And by the time most people are able to name what's been happening to them, they've already spent months or years doubting whether what they experienced was real. Today we're going through 7 specific patterns that characterize emotionally abusive relationships, not to diagnose or to judge, but to give language to experiences that often go unnamed for far too long. 1. Surveillance disguised as concern. There is a meaningful difference between a partner who is interested in your life and a partner who monitors it. Interest looks like curiosity, presence, genuine engagement. Monitoring looks like going through your phone without asking, checking your location, questioning who you spoke to and when, tracking how you spend time with people outside the relationship. When someone frames constant surveillance as care, I just worry about you, I only do this because I love you, it becomes difficult to separate the behavior from the feeling it claims to express. But care and control are not the same thing. One expands your freedom, the other steadily contracts it. 2. Reality distortion, what psychologists call gaslighting. Of all the patterns in emotionally abusive dynamics, this one may be the most psychologically damaging precisely because it targets not just your emotions but your perception itself. It looks like this. Something happens, a harmful comment is made, a line is crossed, a promise is broken. When you raise it, the response isn't acknowledgement or explanation, it's denial. I never said that. That didn't happen. You're misremembering. You're too sensitive. Over time, the consistent gap between what you experienced and what you're told you experienced produces a specific kind of internal confusion. You stop trusting your own account. You begin to run every memory through the other person's version before you allow yourself to believe it. This erosion of self-trust is one of the most lasting effects of this pattern and one of the most important to name, because recognizing it is often what begins the process of reclaiming your own reality. 3. Exclusion from decisions that affect your life. In a healthy partnership, both people have a voice. Decisions, financial, domestic, relational, logistical, are made with the input and awareness of everyone they affect. In emotionally abusive dynamics, one person gradually loses access to that voice. They're informed rather than consulted. They find out what was decided after the decision has already been made. They're positioned as someone who lives within a structure they have no hand in building. This isn't always loud or confrontational. Sometimes it's simply the quiet, consistent experience of being present in a life where your perspective is treated as optional. 4. Financial control as a containment strategy. Economic autonomy, the ability to manage your own money, make your own purchases, have access to shared resources, is one of the most concrete forms of independence in adult life. When that access is restricted through requiring every transaction to be approved, controlling what money is accessible and when, monitoring spending in granular detail, or leveraging financial dependence as a point of leverage, it becomes a mechanism of containment. The effect is practical and psychological simultaneously. Practically, it limits options. Psychologically, it communicates repeatedly that you cannot be trusted to make decisions on your own behalf. 5. Threats deployed at the moment of boundary setting. Pay attention to what happens in a relationship when you try to express a need, set a limit, or simply say that something isn't working for you. In healthy dynamics, that expression opens a conversation even if the conversation is difficult. In abusive dynamics, it often triggers a threat. The relationship itself becomes the leverage. If you keep pushing this, I'm done. You're lucky I put up with you. Go ahead and leave. See how that works out for you. What this accomplishes is a specific kind of conditioning. You learn that self-advocacy has a cost. That expressing needs puts the relationship at risk, and over time you stop expressing them not because they've gone away, but because the consequences of voicing them feel too high. 6. Blame transferred onto the person being harmed. This pattern operates with a particular subtlety that makes it genuinely difficult to identify in real time. Something harmful is said or done. And then, instead of accountability, comes explanation. I wouldn't have reacted that way if you hadn't. You know how I get when you do that. This is what you cause. The emotional logic is sophisticated enough that the person on the receiving end often accepts it, at least partially. Because the argument isn't obviously unreasonable, because everyone contributes to relational dynamics, because the line between taking responsibility and accepting blame is harder to locate when you're inside the situation. What makes this a pattern rather than a single difficult conversation is its consistency. When harmful behavior is reliably redirected back to the person it affected, when accountability is never a genuine option, the dynamic crosses into territory that deserves to be named clearly. 7. The slow contraction of self. This one isn't a single behavior, it's the cumulative effect of all the others. After months or years of surveillance, reality distortion, exclusion, financial restriction, threats, and misplaced blame, something happens to the person inside the relationship. Not dramatically, not all at once, but gradually. They become smaller, more careful, less certain of their own perceptions, less willing to advocate for themselves, less recognizable sometimes even to themselves. This is what emotional abuse ultimately does. Not a single wound, but a slow erosion of confidence, of self-trust, of the sense that your experience and your needs are real and worth defending. If any of this sounds familiar, if you recognized yourself in what was described here or someone you care about, the most important thing to know is this: what you experienced is real. The difficulty naming it doesn't mean it didn't happen. The absence of visible evidence doesn't mean the harm wasn't genuine. Emotional abuse is among the most under-recognized forms of relational harm, precisely because it operates through language, through patterns, through the slow distortion of perception. It doesn't always look like what people expect abuse to look like. If you're in a situation like this, speaking with a licensed mental health professional, someone who can help you understand what you've been experiencing and support you in whatever decisions you choose to make, is one of the most important steps available to you.